Hello. If you're able to, please close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. And a deep breath out. Relax your shoulders. Unclench your jaw. Take another deep breath in. And another breath out. You can open your eyes now. My name is David, and welcome to Mindful Moments. How are you today? I hope you're well. I am most well, thank you. And I have to start today with an announcement. Next week, there will be no new podcast episode. That's Monday, the 11th of March. There'll be no new episode. There will be an episode the week after, but next week I will be on holiday. In fact, this week I'm already on holiday. The Monday this episode comes out, I will already be on holiday. I've recorded this in advance. I did think about recording another episode for advance purposes, but then realized I'd have to be editing it on holiday. And that's one bad habit that I used to have that I have resolved to never do again. Whenever I'm supposed to take a scheduled break or go on holiday, I always end up doing that one thing or just taking care of this one thing that I have to do, which means I never actually fully take a break. And I really need to stop doing that because that's how I reached the point of exhaustion last year. So all that said, no new episode next week, new episode the week after. Thank you in advance for your understanding. Last year when I had to take a break, everyone was super understanding and I really, really do appreciate it. So thank you very much. All that said, that out of the way. This week, I'm very tired. I'm going on holiday next week. And you know when you get to the point just before you go away where everything just seems twice as long as usual. It just seems really difficult to complete all the things you need to do. And I want to talk about that today. I want to talk about quitting. I want to talk about giving up, stopping. When you're doing something difficult, you don't want to do it anymore and deciding to quit. And how thinking is not quitting. Thinking about quitting and quitting itself are two very different things. There's a big gap between it. And I used to think that I would have reached my ultimate point of toughness when I never thought about quitting, when I just did difficult things and the thought of quitting never even crossed my mind. And I now realize that to be completely incorrect. I think one of the things about difficult things is that they remain difficult and there's always going to be something that's difficult to me. No matter how good I get at a certain thing, there'll be a scenario or there'll be circumstances where I find it difficult. And thinking about quitting when things are difficult is not a moral failing. There's nothing wrong with it. Difficult things are difficult for a reason, or they're called difficult things for a reason. There's nothing wrong with me thinking about quitting things. What matters is that I don't follow through on quitting. What matters is I remember why I'm doing the difficult thing. But thinking about quitting is absolutely fine. And actually is one of the tools I use to help me continue to do the difficult things. So yeah, that's what I want to talk about today. And I will waste no time. I'll start. When you're going through difficult things and you have the option to continue and the option to quit, there is always a point of vacillation. There's a moment where you could go either way. And that moment is where thinking about it and actually thinking it through properly is actually the important thing to do. Rather than pretend that I don't have the feelings that I want to quit this right now, it's actually more important that I really think about it, really acknowledge it, think it through, and decide what I want to do. The difficult things I'm doing will always be merited by the joy that comes at the end of having done them and the happiness that comes at the end of having done them. When I do something difficult, I know it's in pursuit of something. It's for a reason. It's not just needless suffering. Something is difficult in a moment because I'm working towards something bigger or trying to get something at the end of it. But when things are difficult, of course, we think about the relief of not having to do them anymore. And that's what the desire to quit something really is. It's a desire for relief. You want to stop feeling the suffering and the difficulty you feel in that moment. And that's perfectly natural. None of us like to suffer. None of us should. If you don't like to suffer, that's good. It means everything's working as it should be. It's just sometimes things don't come easily. Sometimes we do have to suffer a little bit in the pursuit of the things that we want or the things that we want to get, the things we want to have. When I'm in a place where I'm going through difficult things and I could quit, the option to quit is in front of me, I really, really think about it and I really imagine what it would feel like to quit. I really imagine what it feels like. And I imagine the relief of just stopping, of not having to do this anymore. If I quit right now, this would just all go away. I wouldn't have to do this anymore. And that would be a tremendous relief. The desire to quit is the desire for relief. I just want to be relieved of this. I don't want to do this anymore. And imagining that relief is almost, it's not quite the same as feeling it, because you come back to earth and you do actually have to continue doing the difficult thing. But just imagining the relief sometimes can be enough just to get you over the most difficult moment. Taking a moment to actually process that feeling and think about how badly you want to quit and how badly you want to stop feeling or being in that difficult place can be really helpful, because once you have felt that feeling, imagine the relief and come back to reality, making that decision to continue feels a lot more like an active decision, because you actually know what it would feel like to quit. You've given yourself a moment, a second, to actually imagine what it would feel like to quit, and evaluated the situation again, and then decided, I'm going to stick at this. And I think sometimes that's what can make difficult things feel even more difficult, when you feel like you have no option. I actually don't have any option but to keep doing this. Sometimes that can be motivating, but sometimes it can be an extra burden on top of the difficulty of the thing that you're doing. The feeling that I actually don't have any option but to do this. When you actually embrace quitting as an option, think about giving up as an option, and think about how it would feel to do so, and then decide not to, it feels like you have once again renewed a promise to yourself that you're going to stick at this thing. It feels like a new point in the journey. This difficult thing that I have to do, I have no other option. You think about the other option that you have, realize that I could actually choose this other thing, but I'm deciding to continue with the difficult thing because of what it will bring me later. That's a new point in the journey. That's a new checkpoint. It's like the journey starts once more. Okay, I've decided to do this. I'm going to do this. And just having that tiny little bit of control over what you're doing, and knowing that your actions are yours and you've done it for a good reason, not just because you have to. Mentally, sometimes that can make all the difference. I feel a lot in a lot of the things I do. And I'll use exercise as a practical example all the time, but I do really feel that a lot of these principles show themselves up a lot in regular exercise, etc. One of the a type of exercise that I always struggle with, that is always difficult to me, is running. I find running very difficult. I like running when it is involved in a sport, with like a team sport. I love that. If I have to run during football, absolutely fine. But running itself, just straight running with nothing else around it, I've always found difficult, and I continue to find difficult. And one of the most difficult things that I find about running is that you just have to decide to keep putting one foot in front of the other. I tell myself I'm going to run 5K today, and I get to 2.5, and I think, do I really have to do this? Do I really have to carry this on? And just thinking about it, I'll actually think, what would happen if I quit right now? If I stopped right now, I then cool down, I go back home, change, shower, eat something, and I don't have to run anymore. And by the time I've thought through that thought process, some time has passed, I've progressed a few more meters, and I've come to the conclusion I'm not actually going to do that just yet. And that's all it can be sometimes. Sometimes it just buys you a little bit of time. Thinking about quitting and not doing it just buys you a little bit of time. Okay, I could do this, but I'm just not going to do it right now. The option is still there. I'm just not going to do it right now. And sometimes that is enough. Considering it as an option enough times that you decide to just not do it right now, until you get to the end and you didn't do it at all. You just didn't. You managed to make it. And the thing about quitting is that, as I said, you want to quit because you want relief. And you want to quit because you want immediate relief. But relief will come. Relief will come at the end of whatever the difficult thing is. And that relief, A, will be long lasting, because you'll actually have completed whatever it is you've completed. And B, will be accompanied by joy, because you've actually managed to complete the difficult thing. It's really hard in a moment to keep yourself motivated and keep yourself pushing through something that's really feeling very difficult. It's difficult to push through that weight. And that's why I feel it's important. I feel it's important to acknowledge and honor all the emotions you feel whilst going through difficult things, because otherwise, that's when everything does feel overwhelming, because you're not understanding everything that you're feeling at that time. And that's why I really do think that thinking about quitting and acknowledging that you're thinking about quitting is actually a very strong thing to do. It's a really strong thing to do, to acknowledge to yourself that you're struggling. If you don't acknowledge that you're struggling, it's a lot harder to deal with that struggling. And thinking about giving up isn't the same thing as actually doing it. You can think about giving up 100 times and get to the end of something, be congratulated on it, and no one even knows that you thought about quitting it the whole time. No one knows at all. And from the outside in, it can look easy. But thinking about it, making sure that you actually know what it entails, and choosing to continue to do something difficult is something that's, I think, very worthy of praise. I'm not sure if you've heard the expression that true bravery isn't the absence of fear, it's acting despite fear. And I think the same of making it through difficult things. It's amazing if you do a difficult thing and never felt like quitting at all. It's even more commendable if you felt like quitting, you felt the difficulty, acknowledged it, and managed to push through regardless. And I say all of these things not because quitting is the worst thing in the world. If you give something up, it's okay. There'll be more things to complete. There's always something else to do. It's just in some cases, we know that giving up on something now might make it more difficult to do in the long term. Sometimes giving up on something in a moment just means pushing it down the line and not being able to do it, or either not having to do it right now, but it's something you're going to have to return to later. And genuinely, we are a lot stronger than we think. Generally, we are a lot stronger than we think. I think acknowledging our struggles and pushing through them is where we see our strength at its best. That's where we're truly able to see, right, I know this is difficult. I know how much I'm struggling with this, and here I am doing it regardless. Feeling that, acknowledging that, I feel is one of the best ways for us to show ourselves how strong we are, how much we're truly capable of. And there's no shame, as I said, in giving something up. There's just, we can take a lot of pride in knowing that we've struggled with something, knowing that we had the option to give it up, but knowing that we decided not to. And that's what I'm really trying to do in these last couple of weeks. And what I've been trying to do for a while, actually, is acknowledge when I feel like giving something up, acknowledge why I feel like giving it up. And if the reason is just that I'm finding it really difficult right now, to say, okay, just give me a little bit longer. I say that to myself. The option to quit is there. The option to quit will continue to be there. Just try for a little bit longer, not right now. And that is the power of acknowledging the thought that I want to quit. Acknowledging the thought makes it easier to deal with and makes it easier to choose the thing that I know will be better for me in the long term. So if you think about quitting, think about it. Truly do think about it. And whatever decision you make, let it be one that you know you've made for the right reasons. We inside ourselves know where we've done something for the right reasons. And if we can find it in ourselves to push through the difficult things that we know we're doing for a good reason, we will always be proud of ourselves afterwards, as we should be. That's all from me today. I really hope that you have a great week in the next couple of weeks. And as I said, I'll see you the week after next. But thank you very much for being here today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Whatever you're doing this week, I hope you have a wonderful one.